Today on the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, we are discussing Miss Marvel Season 1, Episode 3, Destined.
Welcome to the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
And I'm terrible.
All right,
sorry,
terrible?
I'm Jeff Randall. Hi, terrible, I'm Dad.
And I'm terrible adjacent Zuhair Ali.
All right. I like it.
I'm terrible adjacent. I'm very meta about being terrible.
I'm a Tanner terrible.
Okay. So let's talk about Miss Marvel, guys. What new episode, reaction time.
New episode.
So react, fellas.
We're like halfway through the season now,
Yep.
right?
Yep, that's
Something
true.
like that. We're expecting 6 episodes out of this guy.
Yeah, out of this guy.
Yeah. So, when you have a wedding in the middle or at the end, nothing is going to go well.
Yep, that wedding is not finishing out normally.
Yeah, it is not
really,
completing.
if there was a wedding at all, I'd be like, oh, something big is going to happen. There's a wedding. And then, yeah, a disaster will happen.
They were worried about drama at a wedding. They got one.
They did indeed. And then combining that with the fact that it's the middle of the season, yeah, this was definitely not going to go well. I said that in the chat as soon as we saw that coming. I was like, yep, this is going to be disastrous. So the other big thing we got this episode was we finally got the flashback of Aisha, which, like we've been talking, she's been trying to communicate through some sort of like time portal with the train and everything. And so like something's going on there. And we finally got an actual flashback to that time period and saw what was going on when with the partition and what happened with these apparently Jinn. So Jinn, they mentioned this. Some people call them demons. Some people call them,
Genies.
There was a bunch of Urdu words that they gave. What was it? Ajni was one of them, which is stranger. I think Majnu was another one.
Yep.
What does that mean?
I know the story of Majnu and Layla. That's kind of like the Middle Eastern Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
Oh my God, what does the word actually mean? Because that was the name that he was like given. Majnu is insane, mad, or unsound mind.
Interesting.
So it's like when he was like professing his love for Layla and started giving up like his like royalty and just started doing like the dumbest shit to like get her family to like let them accept her. They changed his name. Like he's a Majnu. I forgot what the character's original name was, but like when he became a madman, they named him Majnu, and then Ajni was the other one that they gave, which was Stranger. So It was cool how they threw those in there, and then, which it's one of the impressive things about how every time they give an Urdu word, they explain it in English, but like ever so cleanly.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like, here's the definition for all you people out there. It's like, this is like, let's nicely put it into the conversation to explain what it means. So the fact that they threw in the words like Ajni and Majnu and then went to like demon and things like that to kind of like set the tone and add the intensity of those words was very nicely done.
Yeah. I love it.
It's really nice that they're just kind of like sneaking in the exposition, just kind of like just gently slide it in there.
And it's so funny. They have a character of Bruno who is the white guy, right? In the family group in the community.
Bruno's the everyman.
Well, no. What I'm saying is, like in any other show, that would be the guy you'd use as like, I don't know these things, explain them to me, but they didn't do that. And that's kind of fun and kind of clever that like Bruno has been her friend for so long and been a part of the community for so long that he just like knows most of what's going on. Like
he's already had that exposition.
Yeah, exactly. He's not the guy who doesn't know anything. He's not the Everett Ross of like going to Wakanda and being like, what's Wakanda? But they could have used him that way, but instead, I don't know, it made him a lot more of a kind of a respectable character that he's been in this culture. He's taken the time to learn it. It's just a different kind of example. I really dig it.
I love that they were like, oh, the auntie's got the white guy.
Looks like Bruno got gotten by the auntie. Oh God, that was so funny. There was that little bit of explanation in that scene, especially where the incomparable Anjali Bhamani was explaining to him why you knock their heads together. It's fun to just
yeah,
but
they get more in love each time. Also, it's just fun.
Yeah, it seems like, he's already got a baseline for the culture, but it's some of the things that are like, a little more nuanced or a little
specific,
a little deeper, or things that aren't that surface level you always see them kind of things.
Right, aren't every day is really the thing.
Yeah, that's the term I was looking for.
Because he experiences life with Kamala every day, but doesn't go to a wedding every day. At that age, how many weddings have you been to?
Yeah, and like that's one of the things that we talked about with Anjali Didi, that there's like, so like you have Islam, but because Islam has been in so many parts of the world, like there's different cultures that go with it. So like what you saw in the masjid was like one form of like, don't quote me, I think it was a Sunni wedding, because I've only ever been to like Ismaili weddings and they're very different from everything else. So it's like you saw the Islam part of it, and then you saw the Pakistani part of it, but like that whole thing of like bringing the heads together and the dances, like that's common all around like Pakistan and India. So to have the variations of like this is an Islam thing and this is a Pakistani Indian thing was worth noting.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
then there was the amazing dance number.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
It was great partially because it wasn't like it didn't turn into a MTV music video, you know what I mean? Like it felt very real. Like a lot of videos that I've seen of like families doing that sort of thing. Like it was really good, but it wasn't like these weren't professional dancers. They were sort of like people being a part of their culture and doing the dances that it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, shout out to B-Funk on Instagram. They were just these desi dance teachers that I've just been following for a while, and they were the ones that happened to be the choreographers for this. So it's just so cool that
that's rad.
Happened to follow, like, got this opportunity from Marvel. So, congratulations to them. But yeah, that's how it is for Pakistani weddings, where like we have like the family come together and everything, and then there's always that one girl cousin. It's like, did you practice your dance? And all of us are like, no. We have tonight to learn it. Because like a whole day thing, so it's like we have the Mandy, and then we go like we have to sneak off in a room and do our dance practice, and then like the whole like morning of is all of us just like trying to like go into one of the hotel rooms and like practice our dance and like perform it for the first time. And the last time my sister was a choreographer, she was so mad at me that I didn't practice. Like, I bet you I'm gonna nail this tomorrow, and I did.
That's easy to say in an audio medium, Zoo. It's easy to say in an audio.
I'll send the video in the chat later. I killed it.
Oh, please do. Please post that in the Stranded Panda chat.
Need that so much.
So go to facebook.com/group/SP chat to see Zoo dance at that wedding.
I nailed it. At my friend Bile's wedding, I was really sad that I couldn't do it. Again, I didn't practice until the night before, but my ankle had been killing me from like other stuff, so it just wasn't worth it because I wanted to party afterwards, and that was worth the pain. Sorry, Bile.
So for this wedding, I got super excited when Amir got up and like joined the whole thing, like, oh, I couldn't, I don't know, I know exactly all the moves, and like,
yes,
the stuff that he started doing, I was like, Zoo and I are gonna do this at each other when we see each other next.
That's such a common thing too, is just to grab the groom, and it's like, oh, surprise, he knows things. Saw that coming. And then like, this is one thing that like I still deal with to this day, is when like 70s and 80s American music comes up and people get like super into it, and I'm like, yeah, I've heard this song before. They were like, you didn't hear this, like blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I moved here when I was 3. My parents moved here when I was 3. Like, do you know all the Bollywood songs from the 70s? Because when I was watching this episode and it went, yeah, mera dil pyar ka deewana, I was like, that's a 70s song. I know that because that's all my parents listened to. And I absolutely loved it. And the fact that I got to have that moment on an American show was like, oh, like I was actually like clapping and like singing along because the other Haripa song was so good too. And it's
awesome.
That whole sequence was so much fun for me.
Yeah, I understand now why you sent me the text you did.
Yes. that scene alone.
I love the show.
That scene alone was so good.
I was like, maybe he's just a really big fan of Brown Jovi.
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking.
am now.
So
I actually
good.
was thinking about that scene a lot today, and it's like there's so many movies and shows that have incorporated Indians and Indian culture, and I wondered why this and Never Have I Ever stuck out to me so much. And it's because it's actually hitting like Indian American and Pakistani American people who grew up here and are trying to balance the stuff out. I think that's more unique than actually adding Pakistani characters and Pakistani stories to a show. And I think that's why I'm connected to those two shows in particular even more, because the experience overall is more relatable of trying to be that bridge between East and West.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like the show might be heading to the east. If she's going to head to Karachi.
Oh yeah,
that's going to be so much fun.
I don't know how we diverted. I really wanted to bring up Creehand, right? Creehand.
I don't know. I don't know convinced.
Either. I don't know either.
I'm calling Creehand. I said Creehand.
It's weird though that this character that was an Inhuman in comics, which are descendants of people that were experimented on by Kree, that her power has come from a bangle that was taken off a blue arm. Come on.
Should we worry that this arm is severed?
There's supposed to be two of them.
Where's the other?
Still attached to him, maybe?
Well, so, okay. This episode is called, like, the name of it is Destined.
Mm-hmm.
The family, or the group of people that were unable to go home, that were from another dimension, superpowers, long life, etc., is from comics, a specific comic called Clandestine.
Which is one of the names they gave of the group, too.
Right, the Clandestines, but...
Should we save this for comic spoilers?
Well...
Or is it like, it's just stuff from the episode, kind of?
Like, if you just look up Clandestines, like Marvel the Clandestines, you'll see the comic cover for Clandestine, and on the middle, or like on the cover in the middle, is a big guy who is blue.
Okay. So it's possible there's just like a blue guy in the group.
It's possible that it's just one of the group that is blue.
I thought it might be a Disney's Aladdin reference. The djinn, the genie, the blue.
Yeah, that's what they're called genies. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It was played by Robin Williams. He recorded it eons ago.
Gosh.
Oh, that was Robin Williams' arm. Okay.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. Nope.
That was actually Robin Williams' arm. They just dipped it in blue paint.
Terrible. This is terrible.
Anyways, a few people are pointing out in the chat that the 10 ring symbol was actually on the floor of that temple too.
That's awesome.
And
I didn't know that.
That was one of the cool things of Shang-Chi, is talking about like how far back it goes and how much of an influence around the world. So it's interesting to see like what influence they actually had on like ancient Indian culture and what they did like with those temples. It's really cool how that part of it tied together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Kingo was already mentioned. So obviously Eternals have to play into this somehow, right?
Well, we've been talking about the idea that the bangle... Actually, we have not been talking about this. We talked about it on this week's feedback episode. The idea that the bangle might connect to the 10 rings somehow. We talked about it in the feedback episode because I'd been meaning to bring that up. But yes, like someone wrote in about it. It's so makes so much sense because we know that this story is we think this story is likely to end with Captain Marvel somehow. Captain Marvel was in that scene finding out about the beacon that was being let out by the 10 rings. And it just makes sense that like if they're looking for that kind of energy, like what if the bangle is somehow related to the 10 rings in some way, like whether it's technologically, some sort of the species that it comes from, whatever the dimension that it comes from. That what if that all ties together somehow? And now that the 10 rings is on the floor of the temple that the bangle came from, it feels like it's confirming it.
The central thing of Shang-Chi was that his mom was from a village in another dimension.
Oh, good call. That is a very good call. What if his mom was a djinn?
Or just that's one of the worlds.
Yeah, right. Or there's like multiple worlds that are somehow connected to some sort of mythos or whatever. And that's what this energy that's coming from possibly the bangle that alerted this family, the clandestine, or the 10 rings that are alerting Captain Marvel. I was really hoping that we would see someone like show up and save her at the end of this. I'm glad she saved herself, but I really wanted to see like when they were like closing in on her, I was hoping that someone would swoop in and it would be someone from the movies or whatever.
Before I address that, it would be cool if that's the connection to what gets Carol Danvers to meet Kamala.
Yeah,
because in that end credit scene, she was talking to Shang-Chi and Wong about like the possibilities of where it could come from. So if her and Banner are the ones who reach Kamala and they were just like, hey, you have a way to get to this dimension, let's start talking, and she just starts fangirling and passes out, like, I think that could be what ties it together, is the Marvels are dealing with the other dimensions.
Totally. What also if Kamala gets in trouble, because it seems like she might. She's been on the run from the damage control this whole time and needs a lawyer. And she's meeting Captain Marvel, who's working with Bruce Banner on this whole Sig Beacon thing. And then you got damage control and she needs a lawyer, and you got a She-Hulk. And what if Kamala shows up on She-Hulk? Sorry, that was just an aside.
And then what if she's just working with Matt Murdock? Because I just want to see him too.
I was like,
bring him in while we're at it.
I was like, we're going for Matt Murdock, right? No way.
No, just the fact. Well, that's well-trodden territory.
Yeah, we've been there before.
Kamala being a defendant during She-Hulk, that'd be pretty awesome.
So, oh man, the art on the bangle looks very similar to the art and the etchings and whatnot on the Ten Rings.
Okay.
And when Shang-Chi put on the Ten Rings, Wong said that when he put the Ten Rings on, it sent out a beacon. It sent out a signal.
Mm-hmm.
When Kamala put on the bangle, that's when the destined, the
clandestine founder. Exactly.
Like she was saying, like, that's how we were able to know. So like they may be like Cordo B says in the chat, that may be forged by the same race, or it may be like, from the same group of people.
Yeah, same type of magic, something like that.
It has the size adaptation capabilities too, which I know we've seen that a lot with like Tony's armor and the gauntlet and stuff. But when the 10 rings get put on, like they tighten up, and the bangle did the same thing when they took it off Robin Williams' arm and Aisha put it on.
Oh, did it? Oh,
yeah. It was a lot bigger for the blue arm, and then it tightened up.
I was like, I'm not going to respond to the Robin Williams part. I'm not going to do it. You can't make me.
So wrong. It's just so wrong.
I almost finished a sentence.
Yeah, you almost got there completely dry, but you didn't. It took us a minute even to catch you said it.
When you crack, I crack.
So what about we got Bruno, or Brian, as we all like to call him.
No, he's Bruno.
Who's team Kamran and who's team Bruno?
I mean, Kamran kind of seems like a badass assassin, so
I'm team Bruno.
You know what, I'll just go with the brown guy then. I'm going with Kamran.
I don't know. I was fully team Bruno. I said it from the beginning I didn't trust Kamran, but man, he really came out this episode. You know, he showed up. He showed up to fight on the side of good.
You know, it looked like he had like a ball and chain kind of thing. I thought that maybe he was going to have that expand. I was like, are they going for Wrecking Ball? But they didn't. They didn't go for that. Instead, he's using it sort of like a whip, and it was like they're having a whip off. Yeah.
The other guy seemed to have powers. I don't know that Kamran did. Maybe Kamran needs something to activate his powers, because he's also Jin, a descendant of Jin, right?
Yeah, that's what his mom was saying, is that maybe someday something will activate his power.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Man, so much happened this episode. I knew that we were going to get the clandestine showing up and trying to be our friend. I thought it would like last a little longer, but they really just like went for it. Like the first episode, we didn't really get to know them, and they're trying to like, show her, hey, look, we're the good guys. Come, let us use your bangle. Let us use your powers. And then immediately, like with the first amount of pushback, they're like, nope, we're just going to take what we want. You know,
that's weird though, that like, they've been around for so long, they've been waiting patiently or whatever, and then like all of a sudden now, like for seemingly no reason, like now they're impatient and they're gonna force it.
I'm assuming they couldn't find it until now.
They knew the wedding needed some drama.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
But yeah, that was really drama. That really was messed up how they were just kind of like, we're not waiting, we need this now, we're just going to go kill their whole family.
Yeah, it was real messed up.
Yeah, that escalated
very quickly.
Rain on your wedding day is supposed to be good luck, right? So like...
What if it's blood or bodies?
Battle on your wedding day seems like it's got to be a good thing, right? Big battle on your wedding day.
Raining blood on your wedding day?
You got to go to blood. There was no blood. This is a very like...
No, Bruno could have had some internal bleeding.
He probably does. Like, people kept asking him, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "No, I am not. I am not okay."
Thank you for asking. Finally, though,
I love that answer. Oh man, and it made a lot of sense that she didn't tell Nakia about her powers, because literally, if Nakia, a board member, found out about her powers and then didn't tell that to the government, that would implicate the entire mosque. They built this whole thing. I've been rooting for Nakia to get the board member thing, and she got it just in time to make it like really complex, you know, for their relationship, for her not to be able to tell her. It was horrible. I hated it.
I hated it in the best way.
Yeah, for sure. Oh.
Yeah, God, this, so it seems like, you know, the first 2 episodes were kind of setting the stage, giving us the world, and then now it's like, okay, now it's all happening. It's all going now. And I love it. I love that they've done that. I almost kind of wish that maybe they might stretch it out just a touch. Like, can we just a moment?
I felt the same way when they turned on a dime. We're like, no, we're just going to get it.
I approve the not beating around the bush of it.
Right. If you first off, there's a couple things that don't particularly add up. They were like, can you help us get to our other dimension? And like, she was like, sure. I have a friend who can do Eric Selvig level science. No problem. Like, what were they expecting from her? You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty bonkers.
Yeah.
And then also, to turn on a dime was crazy. But here's what I like about it. To turn on a dime and just be like, that means they have a lot more to do with these 6 episodes. Because this could have been, they could have had this wedding at the end of the season, and it could have ended with like Captain Marvel showing up, helping out in some way, and being like, we got bigger things to do. This bangle called us too. It connects to the 10 rings. We need to go off and fix this dimensional trouble we're having, you know? That could have been the entire season, but that's not what happened. She fought him off, and now like there's still more to tell. There's still more to do.
Yep.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that we have like it took 3 episodes for us to find out like what the villain actually is, because the last 2 just raised questions, and now it's like, here it is, and shit's gone wild.
Yeah.
Let's go. We're going now. Here we go.
I like it though too, because one of the biggest sort of criticisms of these sorts of shows is this idea that like, hey, the bad guy always has to be connected to the hero in some way that in all the Marvel movies, it's always a friend of yours betrays you or turns evil, because they have to introduce the villain in the first act with the hero. And then they get through that part, and then they have the fighting. In this, she still has a connection to Kamala through the history of her family, but they didn't show up until Kamala was already a hero. So I think that's why it feels weird, because it's different than a lot of the other things we've seen. But it also, if you really think about it, it's kind of weird that so many of our villains are like friends of the heroes that like kind of go bad. It's sort of a thing that happens.
I was never your friend. I was always just using you. Like,
I'm an Obadiah Stane. I'm a whatever. Yeah.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave in Karachi.
Afghanistan, get it right.
I don't think that's how he would have said it.
Probably didn't even know it was a city.
Hey, did you like, while we're talking about multiversal madness, but did you catch the call out when Kamala was saying Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, would just show up and punch a hole through time and space? And I was like, wait a minute, that's not her power.
Yeah, I put that in my notes.
Like, whose it is.
That's not what she does.
Yeah.
Time for some Merca.
So I knew that this whole thing, these people were Jinn. I kind of hated this because we had that Jinn line a couple episodes ago.
Oh yeah, you're scared of the Jinn?
Yeah. I knew this was going to be a Jinn line, or these people were going to be Jinn, because they put it in the recap. Like, it was not an important line in any way.
Yeah.
It was like a joke from her brother that we had discussed on the podcast. So that's why I remembered it even. But like, they put it in the recap, and I was like, oh, so there's Jinn. All right.
I hate when that happens with the recap. It's like, oh, I remember that line happening. It was so non-consequential that, like, it's not at the forefront of my mind. But now that you've shown me that, like, oh, I guess I know everything about this episode. Thanks.
That is one of those things that they just put so much emphasis on the first episode. I was like, well, that's going to be a factor later on.
Yeah.
And I asked my mom, I was like, what's a Jinn? She was like, can you give me some context? I was like, did you ever hear like stories as a kid? She was like, you mean like Genie? Like from Aladdin? I was like, oh, okay. That is all you got from it. So I have no family resources to answer that one.
So, but because you're well dried up.
No, I need value. I need to be here for 3 more episodes.
Mom, I need more out of you. Come on. Make something up.
But what Mummy was not able to help me with, Kamala's dad was, because when he was like translating the script, he's like, oh, these are in Urdu. And like talking about like the origin of the Jinn and what they could be and this and that, I was like, okay, that's a nice touch on like how he perceives them, because apparently his family has experience with those stories.
Yeah. I love, though, that he was like, never heard that one before. That's a good one. Bye, Bruno. I'm going to go eat my synthetic pie.
I just love its syntheticness.
Something about it.
Something about it is just so good.
Syntheticness. Just can't stay away from them. I love it. God.
So
I was like,
those
Dad,
pies, man.
Same. Me too.
Yeah, right. Those pies, like I think I've eaten them since I was a little kid. I don't really eat them now, but like when I was a little kid, they had them at like the cheapest grocery stores. We used to shop at a grocery store that was like, I don't know. It was called Cash Bargains.
Ooh.
They only took, and it was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was basically the store they sent things when the dates ran out. Like it was literally like you'd go down and think like we would have to look at all the things. Oh, it's only 2 days out of date. Like we can still eat that. And like that's what this little. It was like it was a rural grocery store where they sent it. Where like, you know, people that don't, it's a food desert, so they send all this expired food out to the middle of nowhere. And like we're walking around, but yeah, those pies were like the only thing that was like never out of date. Those like,
that's because they last forever,
right? But they were also being sold. I don't think they were like the only like thing that was being sold firsthand. Everything else was like secondhand. I don't know. Anyway, but they always seemed so bad for you.
Those pies were the only thing that was close to fresh.
Yeah.
Oh, going back to the fight sequence a little bit, you were talking about how you were happy that it was Kamala that like settled it.
Yeah.
And I think the coolest thing about her fight sequences compared to our other Marvel high schooler, Peter Parker, is that she doesn't have Peter tingles. So like a lot of it was just reflexes and trying to run away and like, oh, what am I doing? Like it took her so long just to finally be able to throw a punch.
Yeah.
And I think that factor of like, hey, because I have powers, I'm not magically a good fighter was a really important thing to add into that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that she's not super strong either or super invulnerable. The fact that her knee hurts from that flip over the car. That was a big scene for me where he's like, you know that pain you get a couple days? You know how when you flip over a van and destroy a drone, like your knee hurts a little bit a few days later? Like the pain is a little delayed. That's such a good line.
I love that he was just like, yeah, you need to pay attention to what I'm talking about. We're not talking about that.
Like that happened twice.
But it hurts.
Like Nakia was trying to talk about how she like got the position, she was on her in her own little world, and then like Bruno was talking about Caltech, and she was like, "What? Yeah, why didn't you tell me about that?"
Yeah.
And like I get it, because obviously having superpowers is kind of like hard to deal with, but it's like it's the same with Never Have I Ever. Of just like, God, there's so many similarities with those two shows. Of just like being like hyper focused on one thing that you're like, oh my God, like I'm responsible for my friends. I'm responsible to like reciprocate this energy that I'm getting from them. They're doing so much for me.
That line hurts so much from Bruno when he says, when she says like, why didn't you tell me sooner? He's like, I think you've just been busy. Like, he gives her like all the out, like, but also like he's trying not to be blamey, but he's also like saying, yeah, it's your fault. Like, you have not let me say this to you.
No, he's a better man than me.
Zoo would have been like, you haven't let me say a damn word.
But yeah, going to Caltech. And I like that he says that he's like, I got into Caltech and I need to go. Like, I think I need to go.
But I need to know you're okay.
But I need to know that everything's okay with you. It's like, Berta.
You sweet, sweet human being. We need more of you.
This sweet summer child. I need him to go to Caltech and meet Riri Williams.
That would be so cool.
Help develop the next Jarvis.
Yeah, it's so great because he literally built that like whatever Alexa clone thing in their house. Zuzu. That's right. It's Zuzu.
How can I help?
If he ended up helping with the interface of a Jarvis type thing, how badass would it be if it was Zuzu? Like, he's continued to work on Zuzu and Zuzu is in the suit, you know?
Oh yeah. Riri and Zuzu.
Oh yeah, Riri and Zuzu. Sounds like we're animated cats.
I just imagine my Google Home just being just doing Zeus accent there. Like,
I'll do a voiceover for you for Google.
Like, Google, turn off the light. I got you. Okay, I turned it off. Like,
no problem.
Yeah.
You need to get one of the video ones just so you can see my head bob.
That's what I need you to just record every possible phonetic sound and the way that your head would move when you say that, and then we can just kind of slap it all together into some natural language processing. We can make this happen too.
Yeah, do it.
Speaking of phonetics and vocalizing, the musical vocals that were at the beginning of the episode, like while the Marvel logo was rolling up, was so beautiful, and I'm glad that they added that touch to it, especially because it was a flashback in India during partition. Like, it was a very powerful thing, because, Matt, as you know, like, music is a way to express emotion, and that's one of the things, like, between the, like the Sufi style of music, that's just, it's not, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be words, but there's, like, emotion just within voice, and to hear that and then see partition during British rule and then people frantically trying to find something while a temple is collapsing. You didn't need any lyrics or words or anything of that. Just that vocalizing was just stunning and a great way to start off the episode.
Yeah.
And I think having the British soldiers in the background, like, just, you know, like, that is the backdrop. That is the sound that we hear, like them, you know, firing on people, and like all of that was just so, like, that was powerful enough in and of itself. You didn't have to have like a whole sequence where they're like running through the city and like, oh, we gotta get to the temple, and like, we didn't need all of that. Like, we just know because they've already explained it to us at dinner,
right?
And then now we're actually getting to like be even mildly immersed in that. Like, it's, the storytellers for this show are so damn good at their jobs. I need more from them right now. 3 episodes isn't enough. I need all of it, and I need them to make like 4 more seasons at least.
Hot take, I am loving the show more than Moon Knight, which actually says a lot, because I had higher, like, I expected Moon Knight to be my favorite despite how much I was anticipating the show, but I was nervous about the show too, where I was like, oh my god, Moon Knight's going to be so good. And Moon Knight was really freaking good. But cultural biases aside, like, the way that this show is being written and the consistency and the fact that like each episode is just as powerful, if not more, as the last, this might be my favorite MCU show, guys.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That's really great.
Really great. Speaking of just like some of the quality, like the dad spitting some wisdom this episode had 2 really great lines.
Fire.
He said, good is not a thing that you are, it is a thing that you do.
That was the priest.
Oh, was that the priest? Sorry.
Yep.
I was conflating the two wise.
A wise bearded brown men.
Yes.
I said it.
I meant the two conversations, but yes.
They are all father figures.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I meant by father. I said fathers, right? Father and father. It was a Catholic thing. I'm not Catholic.
All this is going to be edited to be better.
No, I was
more culturally aware.
Planning to leave all this.
So about the dad talking to Amir.
Yeah, then the Amir conversation with man who chooses family is never alone. That's just a good line. There's two really wise lines in this episode given by, older men, the sort of patriarchs of those situations.
Like how passionately he says, like the junoon, the passion, the love for your family. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. I love that line, though, mirrors what the mom was saying about, like, as long as you're with your family, you're never alone. As long, I found my family.
Yeah.
And I've embraced them, and the love that they have for me, like, has made me feel and understand that I'm not alone.
Yeah. And she talks about finding the mosque. And, like, that's, I think, those of you who've listened to many of our other podcasts know my sort of complicated history with religion, but like one of the things that I see it very powerful in people's lives is just like finding a community, a community that like cares about you and is really charged to care about you. That's where I think it really does function like a really great way for community, and like people that need community that don't have it and maybe you don't have this family support or you don't have this or that, like just like Kamala's mom. You find that. It's just really powerful.
Yeah, like the only Smiley Center that we have here in Virginia is in Richmond, which is 2 hours away from me. So growing up, like my mom actually used to drive me and my sister 2 hours every weekend so that we'd go for our religious classes, so that we can go for prayers at night and then drive back. And like the amount of time I've done homework in my car. But that's just the importance and the stress of community in Islam, especially because the Smileys are such a minority within Islam. It's very important to like have those cultures together. It's like next week we're hosting a sports tournament where everyone like in the region can like come meet up, because there's all these like small facilities to just play and get together and meet up and all that stuff. So it's like that level of engagement, especially within religion, is so powerful, because like for a Smiley, you can go to another city, just find out like where the nearest khan is, and you'll have a home, you'll have a ride whenever you need it, you'll have someone that's giving you food all the time. Like the power of community is so strong.
Absolutely.
And, like it sucks being 2 hours away, which is why I had to find the community like in my tribe at Impact Martial Arts and like the people that I have over there. But to have that and to have the Stranded Panda community,
that's what I was going to say.
It's such a blessing, and it really is something that just keeps you going.
That has been my community for the last couple of years for sure. And I have my music community as well that like is people that I play with regularly. It's weird. So weird how you like fall into the community with certain people, like that. Oh, I'm just like, this guy's a good drummer, so I will hire him. And then 10 years later, we have been in a van for 8 hours a week together. And it's just like, oh, now we're very close, but like weird, and it's the same thing with the podcasting. Like Jeff and Zoo, you guys are my close friends. And it's because like, Jeff for years, sitting here doing this hours a week, and then Zoo newer to that, but like still many hours sitting on a Zoom call chatting with
listening
Zoo.
to you guys for hours a week.
Same thing.
I talk, you guys just don't hear me.
So nothing's changed.
Okay, another thing, they said you'll need two. Talking about the bangle.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What do you do? You think there's another bangle, or is there another artifact? Could the other artifact be the 10 rings? If the 10 rings was on the temple, I don't know. Like just different ideas. I don't know. What if the clandestine found them there because they used the powers? Like, what if those people have been whoever had the bangle and maybe whatever the other artifact is they're looking for had powers to like. And they didn't use them. Then during partition, they found themselves needing to use them. They used their powers, and that's when the clandestine kind of like, oh, let's go. You know what I mean? And
they converged on it.
Yeah, it converged on the power being used. I don't know.
Like a moth to a flame.
Yeah, like a moth to the flame, the clandestine to the Nor.
Yeah.
I'm conflicted A part of me wants to believe that there's another bangle, and that's what the bad guy is going to get a hang of, and that's how they're going to fight each other.
Oh, yeah.
And then Kamala's eventually going to have two. I also believe that the second bangle could have been founded much sooner and turned into the 10 rings so that the power could be balanced between both arms and used in a whole different way.
Right, that's possible. I think that's interesting and very possible. I don't know.
Cordo B in the chat said Nani's got it, but it's like if Nani's mom had the first one and she actually like was lost during partition to try to find it, like how did Nani get the second one all of a sudden?
Yeah, I think the idea was that Nani didn't have it. That's why she...
Yeah, because I think she's already on the train.
Yeah, because Nani was the one that took the bangle at the end of that. So Nani was one of these Jinn, right? She was from the other dimension.
She's Aisha's daughter.
Aisha, sorry. That was Aisha. I did that last week on the podcast. I kept calling Nani Aisha, or Aisha Nani. Aisha had the bangle, and that was her at the beginning. She took off with it, and then she passed that bangle down to Nani somehow, and then Nani passed it down to Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Two lines I just really liked. Speaking of Noor, I loved when she's trying to think of her name, and she says, "Noor girl." No, that's not it.
I have so much to say about that line.
What about it? I love it so much.
It's very beautiful the way that they describe that, because when we were taught about Noor in religious education, like it does mean light, and it's supposed to be like your spiritual energy, like if you believe in God, like it's supposed to be like God's light, the Imam's light, whatever you need it to be for you to have hope towards something. So it's like when you're in your lowest moments, like the Noor is always there for you. The Noor is always present. The Noor is going to guide you to where you need to be.
It's the Force.
That's a very beautiful thing within my religion that I've been grown up hearing as just Noor. So it was beautiful hearing it. I know for the sake of a show, but express that the way that it was, like this is our light, this is our guide, this is like the path, this is what's going to help, like lead us to where we're supposed to be. So that the way that they paralleled something that I grew up with and made it blend in nicely to a superhero storyline was really cool.
That's awesome.
Well, I love that you describe it as the thing that's going to lead you to where you need to be, because Nani followed a trail of stars to get back to her dad.
Yeah. I definitely think we're going to see that or find out about that. And it was definitely someone using their powers to lead them. What if there's some time travel hijinks and Kamala gets to go back and like be the one who leads her own grandmother for like a nice paradox?
I don't like
Prisoner of Azkaban?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Or
she's the Patronus. The big fist is the Patronus.
Yeah, big fist. I was just thinking the stars could absolutely mirror her powers, like if she's just like putting those things, especially
she's
a trail of stars.
Jumping.
Yeah, she's
jumping.
she's like putting those things down for her like ancestor to follow. You know, like to jump from thing to thing. You know,
like I mean, this Back to the Future. This has been
done. Oh yeah, for sure. It's well trodden time travel stuff.
I don't like it.
I like that line.
I don't like the paradox of it all.
The time about how old all the Jinn are, and she says the kid's 17, and she says that's a relief.
Yeah. Oh, thank God.
I love her. So it really is adorable.
Yeah, She really is adorable.
She really is.
I didn't say. I mean, that was in confidence, Mom. You're making this so awkward. No, you're making this awkward. I loved it.
In the chat, we got Spark Sam 85 says at Stranded Panda TV, is damage control the beginning of the Sentinel program? The way they are going after enhanced people seems like the beginning of that.
It could be, but I'm thinking of it more as just the Superhuman Registration Act.
Yeah. This feels very much like Civil War, just continuing, you know?
Yeah. Scovia Accords.
And Hearts of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah, so sort of the whole thing. But I mean, if they do bring mutants into this universe, then we get to a Sentinel program eventually. It is very likely it'll be birthed from the same types of, organizations that want to control enhanced individuals. So,
in the Clandestine comics, there was a point where some of the children were thought to have been mutants.
So Sentinels might have come after him. Yeah. At Chris Strong over there says, Astrid and Panda TV. So now we have different universes, timelines, and dimensions. It's going to get confusing.
We've had that.
We have had that for a while. The dimensions, even like talking about Doctor Strange, he draws power from different dimensions. So yeah, it's dimensions are, as far as I can tell, they are a different place in our same timeline.
Yeah, same timeline, different...
And then timelines and universes are the same thing.
I'll take dimensions over multiverse and timelines at this point. I'm so sick of the two. Like time travel.
How quaint is this? We used to talk about whether realms and the universe and our universe is the same thing.
Yeah.
Or we used to talk about how did realms and dimensions relate.
Oh, how our made-up science has grown.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
But, that all that talk was spawned by, the Thor movies, and then they reference specifically Dr. Selvig and his papers and like how that interdimensional travel is supposed to work. I love it.
She even says, so I'm not Asgardian.
Yeah, I'm not Asgardian or an alien or anything cool like that.
I'm a Jinn.
And tonic?
Yeah, and tonic?
Something she was raised to fear. She just found out she is.
She's like, I'm literally the boogeyman.
This episode, like, kind of, I don't know. It's so, I kind of, you said it earlier, Jeff, that this one's sort of packed and it moves so fast. I kind of wish she'd had a little more time to be like, I am the thing I feared my whole life. Maybe she will in the next episode, but it moves so quickly to the wedding and then they're chasing her and like, you know, she didn't really get a chance to have that beat so much.
Well,
she had a little bit.
With Nakia being also raised in that culture, I want to see her and Nakia talk about how, she is a Jinn and that's scary.
Yeah,
and and have them, kind of try to figure out like you can't be bad, you can't be scary because you're my friend, you're my best friend, and I know you, and you're not a bad person because you're a good person. And then Kamala's like, good something you do because I learned that from my preacher.
Unless Nakia's like me and thought it was the genie from Aladdin.
Hey, we all have different backstories. That's all.
We all have different conceptions of the spiritual things we think of.
Fill the well, fill the well, fill the well.
I mean, when I think of Jinn, I think of The Witcher,
Yeah, it took me a minute to get there.
It's all,
I just want to sleep.
I just want to sleep. He got his wish.
I remember reading like old, old stories or whatever. They're like sort of what the genie from Aladdin is based on, like the I don't even know. I just remember checking out from the library as a kid, like some old like translated book about like old genies because I was interested in that sort of like mythology at the time.
Yeah, and
they were called Jinn, and I was like, I just like in my brain, Jinn is genie, Jinn is genie. Like that's totally what I thought of. But they were a lot darker in those stories. They aren't.
Oh yeah,
they aren't.
It certainly wasn't Robin Williams.
Yeah, hero of this episode, Robin Williams. They weren't that.
It's more like Jafar when he turned into a Jinn.
Yeah, something like that.
Sort of. Yeah,
a little more malevolent. A lot like they were kind of tricksters in the stuff that I read as a teen.
Yeah, they were usually like, yeah, I'll grant your wish.
But bam.
For the most part.
Very literally.
You gotta be super specific.
Have y'all seen this trailer for this movie with Idris Elba as the genie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It looks really weird and really interesting.
It's got Kate Blanchett, I think? Or is it? No, it's Tilda Swinton.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
all those old white women, old English white women look alike.
Yeah. We probably need to get off this here reaction cast that are supposed to be 30 minutes long and that turned into an hour every week when we do them in prime time. But thank you guys for joining us on the live chat. Thank you guys for joining us on the podcast and on YouTube. We'll be back soon with all the things. Please subscribe and all those things. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/MCUcast.
Are we going to be coming back earlier next week with Kenobi not taking the spotlight, or are we going to stick with this time slot?
Zoo can't, I think.
Yeah, I have one more week of meetings, and then for the last two, I'm good for earlier.
If you're listening to this next week, yes, we will be doing 7:45 for the live watch, 8:45 for the podcast on Twitch. We might move it up the last two episodes because we can. All right, we'll be back soon, guys. Oh, Zoo, tell them about Animation Deliberation, bud.
Animation Deliberation. We cover animated stuff. I'm sure you could guess that. We just finished our coverage of Young Justice, so if you still have more feedback, we'll be happy to read it. We recorded on Lightyear, so we would love your thoughts on that.
Oh, I want to go see that.
Go see it.
Is it just so good?
It's good.
Okay.
We'll chat.
We'll chat.
Text me. Time travel. And Baymax comes out next week, so we will be covering that on a weekly basis. We might get to Spy X Family at some point. It is that season where everything is coming out, and we are trying to fit in as much of it as we can.
Ooh.
Matt, you were very excited for that. Would you like to hop on?
Baymax, is it going to be a series? I didn't realize it was going to be a series.
It's a weekly series on Wednesday.
Oh,
That's what will be filling your Obi-Wan void.
Gross.
I love the movie. Also, Marvel character.
I really want to do an episode on Big Hero 6 before Baymax comes out, so I may hit you up this weekend for that.
Okay.
If we're both free.
I will do my best. I'm in Dallas right now visiting. My mom had to go to the hospital this week. I mentioned on the feedback cast, I think. My mom had to go to the hospital this week. She's gone to rehab for her back, and so I'm taking care of my niece, and my niece came with me to Dallas, so I'm in Dallas which is always like a little bit hard to do more podcasting because it's I'm here with Alyssa. It's my weeks to try to spend time with Alyssa, but then also with my niece here, it's gonna be a little hard to get away and do a lot of extra stuff this week.
Well, we will have a few weeks of Baymax, so I would be happy to have you on.
Sweet.
For one
Yeah.
And then eventually we'll grab Jeff for Vox Machina.
The one good thing about Big Hero 6 is if we do decide, if we can get it together, that's one my niece can watch.
Yeah, she needs to. Dude, there's so many people who haven't watched it because of Frozen, and it is one of the greatest movies ever. Like, just
because of Frozen,
so good.
like they
like
come out at the
came
same
out
time?
very close together.
Okay.
And I think it like one like overshadowed the other. The same thing kind of happened with like Raya and the Last Dragon and Encanto. So it's just one of those things where it's like, this is such a wonderful movie.
Yeah, Big Hero 6 is great.
Seen it?
Big Hero 6 is awesome.
Matt loves it so much, it might as well be Baymax.
Yeah, I like it a lot. All right, guys, we'll be back very soon. Peace.
Until next time, true believers.
Stay whelmed.
Why the whispers? It's so hard in the editing.
Until next time, true believers.
Stay whelmed.
Well, now you're just mocking
You
it.
have a range to work with there.
Thank you for joining us for the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. Available everywhere you get podcasts, and now a video version streaming live on twitch.tv/strandedpandatv and available at youtube.com/strandedpanda. And if you'd like to learn more about all of our other podcasts, geeky projects, and ways to support the network, visit strandedpanda.com.